All right. Good evening. We're trying to make sure that the camera's working here. Let's see. There we go. Well, thank you very much for those who joined. Looks like we've got a couple of other people who are popping on here just to get started. I just want to welcome you all for joining tonight. I'm glad you're really here. My name is Douglas Hagren. I'm with Emergent College Advisors, and tonight we're going to talk about how to secure your child's future without sacrificing your wealth. And tonight, I'm going to walk you through a roadmap that could help your family avoid thousands of dollars in college costs through mistakes that many others make simply because they didn't know a better way. The strategies that we'll explore, they're proven, but they're rarely explained, and especially not by most people in the industry, college counselors, high school counselors, and definitely often not by financial advisors. My goal is simple. By the end, you're going to have clear, doable steps that you can use to fund your child's education without putting your financial future at risk. Okay? All right. So looks like we've got a good amount of people who have joined. So we're going to go ahead and get started and dive right in. But I want to start by getting real for a second. And college is one of the biggest investments that your family is ever going to make. And yet, the fact is that most families go about it blind. The reality is every family has unique circumstances. College costs, they are rising faster than incomes generally able to be grown by most people. And the admissions and aid, well, fact is, it's a minefield. And if you don't know the system, it is really easy to make small, simple mistakes, and those can lead to big costs. And that's why we're here tonight, to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. And because every one of you has a different situation, we offer a complimentary consultation at the end of the session and a bonus. The consultation, 30 minutes, one-on-one, just to walk you through numbers, to give you clarity. But first, I'd like to start this off maybe in a different direction, and maybe some of you have heard this, been on some of these webinars before, heard presentations about how to fund college. You're going to find tonight's different, and I'm going to start that difference here by telling you a little bit about my story. Would you do me a quick favor? I know there's a feature in Zoom. Could you just test it out for me? Because it's something that we will look at and use as we go forward. But can you raise your hand to make sure that's working? Perfect. All right. Awesome. I'm seeing them. Several hands go up. Thank you very much for participating. One thing I did want to say is a quick housekeeping. We will have time for some questions at the end of tonight. If you have questions, I'm just going to double check and make sure it's working tonight. It looks like it is. We were having some trouble with a Q&A section last time. But if you do have questions, at least and as long as we can make sure that all of those that the system's working, please put your questions under the Q&A and not in the chat, because sometimes the chat will roll. It'll be hard to keep up with them. And so I want to make sure that we don't miss them. And when they go in the Q&A, they stay there until we can answer them. But I appreciate you putting your hand up. And if it's okay with you, as I said, I want to start by sharing something personal. It's not because this is about me. It's because I want you to understand truly why I deeply care about this work, and why families like yours that I work with is more than just a job for me. My story goes way back to the year 2000, and I was a few years out of college. I was working alongside my dad, and I was building a life, and everything seemed to be on track. And then out of nowhere, I got the call that nobody wants. My father had passed away. And what I walked into was pure chaos. There was no plan, no protection, just confusion, debt, probate, overwhelming uncertainty. But the part that haunted me the most, it wasn't just the financial mess. It was this one question that I couldn't escape. How am I going to keep my little sister in college now that the funding's gone? See, my sister is about 6.5 years younger than me. So I had already gotten through college, but she was just starting her journey. She was a freshman. And I'm proud to say that we made it through, but it was way harder than it ever should have been. The experience changed me. It planted a seed. It set me in the direction for what I do today. It's what led me here. helping families avoid the exact kind of disruption and heartbreak mine faced, not just in college, but in every other aspect they touch financially. And for more than 20 years now, I've been helping parents protect what matters most. And it's not just their money, it's peace of mind, their options, their promises to the kids. So, yes, know this going into this. This is personal for me. And I know how personal all of this is for many of you because you're not just sending your kid to college, you're funding a dream. And at the same time trying to protect your future at the same time. So my goal today is simple. I want to help you avoid costly mistakes. I want you to walk away with clarity and confidence and a plan that actually works for your family. Fair enough? And some of what we're going to talk about today is going to sound familiar to some of you. And others, I don't know where you are in this journey. This may feel brand new. What we're going to talk about today, though, has a promise that everyone here is going to walk away with something they have never heard before. Something that could change how you think about paying for college and protecting your financial future. And this is going to be pertinent to parents with kids of all ages, not just focused exclusively on those with late stage college planning children. We don't help families just lower the cost of college. We do, but we'll talk more about that later. It's an area that's important, but it is not as important as some other things that are very critical. We're going to help families avoid real danger, paying for ways that quietly sabotage retirement, lifestyle, or long-term wealth. Because here's the truth. Saving enough the traditional way is almost impossible, even for high earners. You're up against forces of inflation, taxes, market risk, liquidity limitations, and time. And when you only focus on one piece of the puzzle, like the price tag of college or a 529, you risk collateral damage across the rest of your plan. And what if the problem isn't about how much you're saving, it's about how much you're losing, unknowingly and unnecessarily? What if becoming more efficient with the dollars that you already earn could help you fund college without sacrificing your future? So let me ask you this. If something you believed about paying for college, retirement, or other financial questions turned out not to be true, when would you want to know? And would you be open to a better way? And that's what we're here to uncover. Because our promise to you is this. You will walk away with a new clarity and ideas that most families never hear. This is going to be different. So I'm also going to ask you one big favor for yourself. Please put away distractions. I know it's hard. You're at house. Kids are running around, coming in and out. But this could help reshape your future. So if you can do that, shut the door, turn off those distractions. You're going to be thankful for it at the end. So I'm going to go back to those hands. Quick show of hands. How many of you have felt overwhelmed by college planning at some point? I see hands all the time going up, boom, boom, boom. Of course you are. There's so much information. Heck, today we were on tours for my daughter for PSEO, and that's just high school credits. Maybe you've joined other webinars, even talked to other advisors, read articles, and you still were asking yourself, like, something's missing. If so, you're not alone, and you're absolutely in the right place. There is a ton of information out there, but very little strategy is offered. And without strategy, even good advice can lead you in the wrong direction. And tonight we're going to cut through the noise. Our focus is going to be helping high capacity families like yours create smarter, more strategic plan, one that funds college without sacrificing retirement, savings, or, hey, lifestyle. I mean, you've worked hard to build your wealth, and let's make sure that college doesn't unravel that. But we got to be honest, it's expensive. What was supposed to be 4 years of college, unfortunately, the reality is it turns into 5 or even 6. Today, there's about 500 colleges that charge more than $50,000 a year. That's $250,000. And that's assuming they graduate in 4. Think of it. That's $5,000 a month on top of everything else, just for one child. It's no wonder that 73% of parents say that college costs are their biggest financial worry, more than retirement. And the most aren't saving enough. So if you're stressed on how to afford it, be aware you're not alone. And the good news is tonight we're going to show you how smart money families solve this without sacrificing lifestyle or future. What most families don't realize is that improper or incomplete planning may be the single greatest source of collateral damage to your retirement. Forbes reported that financial advisors are not equipped to guide families through tax efficient, aid optimized college funding process. It doesn't happen. The gap in that advice, it is quietly costing smart, successful families every single year. In fact, over the past 2 decades, the number of higher income families taking out student loans has doubled. Even strong earners are unknowingly liquidating future assets, draining savings, and exposing themselves to rippling effects that undermine long-term growth. And the result? Collateral damage. Not just to finances, but lifestyle, legacy, peace of mind. So let me ask you, has your financial plan accounted for this? If you have one. And if not, when would you want to know? No parent should have to say no to their child's opportunity, but also not wake up too late realizing college came at a cost that was, undermining their own financial future. And let's face it, this isn't just a financial decision. It's emotional, deeply emotional. Parents want the best for their children, and that often leads to big financial sacrifices, sometimes the cost of their future. High-income families are not exempt to this either. They may earn more, but they also pay more. If you're one of them, you know what I'm talking about, carrying more financial obligations. Without a coordinated plan, even smart earners risk compromised decisions driven by urgency, guilt, pressure. So the real question is, can you fund college without compromising your retirement, or will one come at the expense of the other? So let's talk about real numbers again. Even what feels to some like a reasonable school, $25,000 per year, it's a pretty fair average. That adds up to $100,000 over 4 years. And that might seem manageable, but here's the issue. If that $100,000 had been directed instead towards retirement, it could have grown to $400,000, $600,000 more. Now you take a private or elite school, $60,000 a year, that's going to equal $240,000, and that's if they graduate in 4 years, which could mean $700,000 plus lost in future retirement value. But here's the kicker you all need to be aware of. 53% of students graduate in under 6 years. So stretch that price to 6 years, and now you're at $360,000 out of pocket. That's from checking, from savings, from 529, even retirement accounts. And the opportunity cost, what it could have grown to, could have been 1.2 to 1.5 million by retirement, which is why not planning for this correctly is a $1 million mistake. And that's before inflation, market volatility, or younger siblings. That's why we call this collateral damage. It's the silent rippling effect of making college decisions in isolation without a coordinated strategy with everything else. It doesn't show up today, but it hits hard when it's too late to fix. So our mission is simple: to help families stop wealth loss, protect lifestyle, and fund college without sacrificing their future. And guess what? There's no one size fits all answer. Every family is unique, and without a tailored strategy, even the well-intentioned plans, they fall short. But with the right strategy, you can lower costs, you can avoid mistakes, you can protect your child's future and your own. The secret is learning how to make the system work for you, not the other way around. So now let's take a step back and discuss a few basics and terms you need to understand before doing anything. This would be a great time to grab your pen, start writing a few things down. First is cost of attendance. This is what a college really costs. And this is their price tag. It's tuition added to housing, to meals, books, and extras. Now, another term you're going to hear is called SAI, or Student Aid Index. It's what the government thinks you can afford. Now, this replaces another term, EFC, or Expected Family Contribution, on FAFSA. This is the new term they're using. And some CSS profile or private schools are going to still use EFC. So we're going to use SAI tonight, but you hear those interchangeably. Now, the next thing is called demonstrated need. What is that? Well, that's the gap between what the college costs and what the government thinks you can pay. Net cost, this is what matters most. This is what you're actually going to pay after any aid or scholarships are offered. As I said, we're going to use SAI terminology tonight. And in this example, we are going to assume that both a public and a private university just require FAFSA, which is the form. If you're not familiar, you have to file to get those numbers. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. And therefore, because they use the same form, they're both going to assume the SAI, or the amount they think you can afford, is $20,000. So if we compare the financial aid results of two schools, public, private, side by side, the public school has a cost of attendance, all in 25,000. Student aid index was 20,000, which left a demonstrated need of 5,000. And what did they offer? Just a $3,500 loan. The unmet need, this is something you'll learn about, where they say, we're just not going to help with that difference. In this case, was $1,500 out of pocket. They add back to the SAI to be paid by the family. And that loan, that just kicks it down the road. It's still your money that you have to pay. It's just delayed. So the total family cost today for the public school would be $21,500, $20,000 plus the unmet need. There's no real savings, just more future debt. You still got to pay the $3,500 later, which means you're really paying $25,000 for the school. Now, a private college, you see that sticker price. Cost of attendance $60,000. Same SAI of $20,000, which means there's a $40,000 demonstrated need. And in this case, the aid is grants and scholarships that fully cover that $40,000 gap. Total family cost, $20,000. There's no loans. There's no gap. The myth buster here you need to be aware of is private colleges can actually cost less than public if they offer stronger financial aid. So you need to be aware not to look at sticker price, but really understand that net price. You also have to understand a very quick warning about out-of-state public schools. They are schools that families often fall in love with, okay? But they can easily run you $50,000 a year or more with almost no aid for non-residents. So before emotions take over, have serious conversations and money conversations with your children, because once they get hooked on that, you may have very little control at all about costs being anywhere close to the range you're expecting. So the earlier you have this conversation with them, the better for everybody. And that sticker shock, that doesn't tell the whole story. That expensive college may actually cost less than the public one. Why? Why would a private school so expensive cost less? Well, they might offer more aid because they can financially offer larger scholarships and grants. Many of them have bigger endowments. That means there's more to give. There's less money tied to government funding, and they need to compete. They're private. They have to fill seats or go out of business. That may cause your student to get into a bidding war. The bottom line, not with them, but between those schools. And so the bottom line is the high sticker price does not mean a high out-of-pocket cost. With the right strategy, you can identify those schools that might have a better deal. So don't ignore them. It's really critical you run the numbers. We can help with this, and you might be surprised at the costs you see. So now that we've seen how the numbers work, let's start to talk about strategy. We're going to shift to some practical tips, some real ways that you can reduce that actual cost without compromising quality or your values or your financial future. These are things that most families never hear about. So again, grab the pens, pencils. You're going to want to take notes on this because one or two of these could be game changers. But it's important to know your friend is not the financial aid office. Actually, was at that PSEO tour today, they were, some people were asking questions, and of course the person leading through was like, hey, just talk to our financial aid office. They'll help you with all this. Their job's to protect the school, not you. So you need to have someone on your side. That's why strategy matters. The more you understand how the system works, the less likely you're going to overpay. And so here's the first secret to getting a discount. When a student ranks near the top of the applicant pool, generally top 20 to 25%, school has a reason to offer more. That they're going to offer more aid, they're going to offer more merit and more discounts. Positioning is power. So it's really important. If money matters to you, do the research to figure out where your children's academics, mainly GPA test scores, put them in the top 20%. And know that if they're not in the top 20%, most other schools are not going to offer the most competitive discounts, because this is how it works. We're going to decode this chart here. It explains exactly how colleges decide who pays what. If you go across the top there, you're going to see what they call ability to pay, based on FAFSA or CSS profile. And then if we go down the side, that's going to be the student's rank in the admitted pool, how they look at them compared to every other student they're assessing. Top 25%, second 25%, etc. Here's the takeaway you need to know. The students in the top half of the admitted pool, they're going to get the best deals. Grants, merit aid, especially if the family has some financial need, but they're going to have to be really high up there. Lower ranked students, families often end up gapped or paying full price. Heck, some schools will let you in just because you're willing to pay full price. So what does it mean? It means being a top tier applicant matters, not just for getting in, but again, for paying less. And this is why strategy is everything, because understanding your financial position and your students' admissions positioning will help you to avoid unnecessary cost. And then target schools that are most likely to reward you. Then the next key is to fill your list with buyer schools, schools that will compete for your students. These are the ones that are going to be the most likely to offer big A, discounts, merit, etc., to fill the seats. You need to avoid seller schools if money matters. Seller schools are going to be the elite, oversubscribed, popular. They really discount. Why? They don't have to. So unless your student is in the top 1% or has high need, but still is in that top 1%, just expect at those schools you're going to pay full price. You're also going to cast a wider net. Many schools will actually give extra aid to students from outside their region. I know a lot of families like, oh, we want them closer to home. What does that mean, though? If you're the student that these schools are missing, you're going to become more valuable. You want to apply to multiple buyer schools. If you do that, you get competing offers. That's going to be negotiating power. Leverage one school's aid against another. You want to file your forms early. Okay, that matters. The sooner you apply, the more money is available. You're going to use the FAFSA for most schools. Some private schools, about 200, are going to use the CSS profile. They ask more information, but they do offer more. And the bottom line here really comes down to this. Okay, aid isn't just based on need. I've said it before. It's based on strategy. Apply smart, file early, leverage offers. This is how you're going to pay less for a better education. Using these strategies, you can dramatically reduce your chances of getting a higher college cost and increase the value of those financial aid packages. And let's use an analogy here. Example, a similarity. Why do people hire CPAs to do the taxes? I mean, it's not just about convenience. It's because they don't want to miss deductions. They don't want to overpay. The system is complex. There's tens of thousands of ways to get the taxes down. And one wrong move can cost you thousands you didn't need to pay. And they also know that the best time to plan is before you file your taxes, when strategy still makes a difference. Sounds a little bit like college planning, doesn't it? The financial aid system's similar. It's full of formulas, loopholes, opportunities, but only if you know where to look and act before it's too late. So the bottom line, you can plan for financial aid or you can react to whatever the system gives you. And we see it all the time. We still see families right now. You can go on any of those boards on the internet and see it is March and they got their offer and they're sitting there going, what do I do? My son is committed to this school and I just got the invoice and it's going to be $50,000. I don't have that. We're $20,000 short. It's March. It's if you've already made that commitment and you haven't done the strategy, your options are less. Just like taxes, file and hope is not a strategy. Planning with precision is. And it's just like taxes, college funding starts before you ever hit submit if you want success. Once you file, your options shrink, the numbers stick, and it's a lot harder to fix a mistake after the fact. That's why the next part is critical. So we're going to walk through the exact steps that smart money families take before filing. So you can maximize your aid eligibility and avoid costly mistakes. Because what you don't know, oh, it can cost you. Here's a quick example of how a well-meaning decision could backfire. Let's say a grandparent gives $15,000 to help with tuition. Sounds generous, right? Yeah, here's the problem. The gift is counted as a student asset, and the student assets are heavily weighted in financial aid formulas. That $15,000 could cost the family tens of thousands in lost aid. It's an unintended consequence. It was a great gift, but unfortunately, they didn't know what they didn't know. See it a lot. Smarter move? Well, wait till graduation to help pay off the loans instead. Same support, maybe a little extra interest, but no aid penalty. So we've seen, just like taxes, one small misstep in college planning could trigger a ripple effect, collateral damage, cost thousands. That's why the smartest families take a different approach. I'm going to throw one other example. I see this all the time. This is where financial advisors that don't understand college planning really get their clients in trouble. 401k rollovers. I've lost my job. What do? Oh, you should roll it to an IRA. FAFSA looks at the past 2 years to determine your income. And I know it's not taxable if you roll it over. They'll tell you that. It's not taxable. But it does show up as a distribution on your return. Now, that's credited against the deposit in the IRA, which means no tax. But to FAFSA in the schools, that counts as income. So be very careful. If you're working with an advisor that does not understand college planning, they could completely obliterate your ability to get need-based financial aid if they require you or request or advise you to make the wrong move at the wrong time. And so we're going to pivot to something very similar that we hear all the time is generic one-size-fits-all advice. You've likely been told that generic one-size-fits-all advice. Save in one specific way, as if there's only one playbook. The reality is what works well for one family may backfire for another. The right strategy needs to fit your situation. You've got your own income, your own assets, your own financial goals. You know, your student ranks differently. The wrong choice could mean higher taxes, lower financial aid, or money stuck in the wrong place when you need it the most. Cookie cutter advice often fails. You need a strategy designed to be flexible enough to support both college, retirement, and other needs without penalty and without compromise. And we're going to dig into one of the most overlooked areas is how are your savings counted by colleges? The truth is not all savings are counted the same. If we take a look at this chart, there are assets that FAFSA and CSS profile will assess. And yes, that always includes checking, savings, investments, and especially 529s. Notice what's not counted. Retirement accounts, annuities on FAFSA, cash value life insurance. Also, home equity is not counted on FAFSA, but it is counted by many of those private schools. This is the kind of insight that can dramatically shift your strategy. If your savings are in the wrong place, you might be penalized. Not because you did something wrong, but because the formula was never designed with you in mind. And let's use the 529. It's a perfect example of how good advice, generic advice can still backfire. Listen, there's nothing wrong with them. They're popular. And they're sold as the end-all be-all of college planning. And yes, they do offer tax-free growth for education. That's a great thing. But look at the chart. That's where the benefits often end. All the red on there, just a few off the top. Well, they're visible, they're restricted, and when used improperly or too early, they can reduce financial aid. You can get penalties, taxes. We've seen families lose tens of thousands in aid, not because they didn't save, but because they saved in the wrong place. And what if your child doesn't go to college? You'll face taxes and penalties to get your money back. The bottom line is what you don't know about your savings vehicle can hurt you. And that's why smart money families don't just ask, hey, what's the popular place to save? They ask, what's optimal for us? And let's pause for a second. If there's one thing we've learned working with hundreds of families, it's this. The plan that works best is the one that can adapt. There's a lot of changes going on right now in the world. A lot of changes going on in people's financial situation. Okay? College is unpredictable. So is life. And the tools you use to fund it, They need to give you options, not lock you into penalties, limitations, or financial blind spots. So let me ask you, how many of you would prefer a college funding strategy gives you flexibility? Raise your hand. Okay. Not just for college, but what about for retirement, emergencies, or whatever life throws your way? Raise your hand if that sounds like something you'd want. Because when your money is flexible, your options will stay open. And that's when you can start building a strategy that truly fits your family. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot to the most valuable list for you to write down tonight. These are the common mistakes that families make, and they're expensive. So grab that pen again, because avoiding even one of those could save you thousands of dollars. These mistakes that I'm going to talk about don't just cost you time, they cost real dollars. Financial aid, tuition discounts, scholarships. So we're going to walk through the top 10 mistakes we see over and over again. We make too much. If you assume your income or assets are too high, families earning well over 200,000 may actually still qualify for financial aid, especially with multiple kids in college, high medical expenses, or unique situations. And skipping FAFSA, well, even if you don't qualify for need-based aid, it could cost you merit money. This is a real example that shows a family with $290,000 of income, but still qualified for over $29,000 in financial aid eligibility. That's real money left on the table if they hadn't filed their forms. Accuracy matters more than speed. One small error can delay aid or reduce what you're qualified for. You don't need to be early. You just need to be right. You also want to make sure you don't apply to too few schools. Fewer schools means fewer options, and that means less leverage. And so aim for at least 10, maybe a little bit more, especially a mix of buyer schools in there that would compete for the students by offering more aid. You want to target schools where your student ranks in the top 20%. Don't pick the wrong ones. This is where the best discounts live. And colleges, they want the top students, and they will pay for them. And all aid is not equal, just not. Some schools meet nearly 100% of need, but they make it extremely hard to get it and extremely hard to get in. Others, they barely try. Sticker price doesn't tell you the whole story. As I said before, the net price is what really matters. You also need to know how the financial aid formulas work. Many people do not. And then where your money lives, that affects how aid is calculated. Student assets, they count more. Some counts don't count at all. Strategic positioning matters, and the earlier you make these moves that you get things right, the better. As I said, this is probably the most prevalent and costly mistake, not filing at all. Even if you don't think you qualify, file the FAFSA and the CSS profile. They're often required for merit aid, emergency grants, appeals, and negotiations. Don't rely on the wrong people, like tax preparer or school counselor, to do this for you. Listen, they're great at what they do, but they are not trained in financial aid strategy. We have seen CPAs unknowingly cost families thousands by recommending a rollover or moving assets into a child's name. And counselors, they are juggling so much these days amongst hundreds of students, and they generally don't have the bandwidth for in-depth aid planning. And since COVID, they are exceptionally overwhelmed with dealing with mental health issues. The college help is just getting pushed further and further down the priority list. Do not jump on the first aid offer you get. Don't accept anything until you've compared all your offers. Then you can use stronger packages to leverage and negotiate. Yes, this is a thing. It does work. There's timing, there's etiquette, but it's absolutely a valuable tool that you can use. But I'd say at the end of the day, going alone is one of the biggest mistakes families make too. You wouldn't rely on the other side's lawyer if you were getting sued, right? But many families, they'll trust the schools to guide them through the financial side. That is a six-figure decision. Having a pro in your corner is one of the best investments that you can make. And I think I've said it a couple times already, but I want to get back into this because every year the Department of Education has shown that less and less families are filing FAFSA. It is one of the critical mistakes because families will assume they don't need financial aid and they won't qualify. But the truth is, it's critical whether you expect aid or not. Colleges actually want to see your full financial picture. Filing keeps you eligible for other opportunities, even if you don't qualify for need-based aid. Many schools will actively recruit higher income families by offering tuition discounts to secure their enrollment. Why would that be? Well, because those families often support fundraising, athletics, campus programs. High income families have negotiating power. Submitting forms positions you to compete for all the best possible offers as schools seek to secure your commitment. And many merit scholarships require a FAFSA or CSS profile, even if you don't need aid. So skipping the forms basically just costs you thousands of dollars in free money. The bottom line is filing FAFSA isn't just about qualifying for need-based aid. It's the key to unlocking all forms of financial aid, maximizing your options, and protecting your family's financial future. Please do not leave money on the table. Do not overlook this opportunity. File your forms. So let's talk financial for a second here. This is going to be where we're going to go here because what are smart money families doing differently? Well, some families manage to send their kids to great schools without crushing debt, draining savings, sacrificing retirement. They follow a different playbook. We call them smart money families for a reason because what they do, well, it's surprisingly simple. They focus on what they can control, managing cash flow, protecting assets, positioning finances strategically. In fact, everything we've covered so far in the first half of this, it's only about 20% of the game. The other 80% is what comes next. Before we dive in, let me ask you, do you ever feel that this whole system was just quietly built to drain your wealth bit by bit while making you decide between your child's future and yours? It does not have to be that way. There is a smarter, more strategic path forward, and we're going to walk through the secrets to make all the difference. Secret number one, let's just call it like it is. No one else is telling you the truth. It's going to cost more than you think. You're being sold a fantasy. Find the perfect school, the perfect scholarship. It'll all work out. That's not how this works. The real cost of college is going to be more than you expect. It's more than what's printed on brochures. It's way more than just tuition. It's 5 and 6 year graduations are the norm. Prices are rising every year. Families aren't ready. And this isn't just an education expense. It's a 6-figure wealth transfer straight out of your retirement. Smart families, they don't guess. They plan for reality, not the brochure. And that starts with honesty. No hype, no miracles, just strategy. And unless you're willing to get really creative, like starting at a community college and then transferring, or going out and uncovering hidden gem merit schools in the middle of nowhere. And let's be honest, well, that's great. And there is a lot of money there. Convincing your team of that plan isn't easy. You're likely staring down $30,000 a year. Again, that's $2,500 a month in new cash flow on top of your existing mortgage, car payments, food, clothing, everything else. And this is why how you pay matters just as much, I mean, if not more than how much you pay. Because with a strategic plan, college doesn't just cost more. Without a strategic plan, college doesn't just cost more. It can disrupt everything. Your savings, your lifestyle, your retirement, even your peace of mind. And the thing is, most families, they don't have a money problem. They have a money leakage problem. You have more money than you think. You're losing it. The truth, you're earning a lot of what you need, but it's just being lost to taxes, interest, inefficiency, unintentional costs. Smart money families don't just budget better. What they do is they figure out how to redirect those lost dollars strategically towards college, retirement, long-term security. You don't actually have to work harder to do this. You just need your money working smarter for you. Now, this right here on screen is what we call the personal economic model. It's a visual of how money flows through your financial life. Okay, and what this does is this actually shows like a plumbing system. You can see that income is going to be coming in here and it's going through these plumbing and it's going to hit and you're going to pay taxes and you might save some money, the qualified plan in the beginning and kind of start to fill up these tanks here. Some of it goes into saving. Most people don't have enough emergency fund. Try to fill up these investments. And then you're going to get all of this money here. Okay. And it's going to come through lifetime capital potential. And most families will then lose money unknowingly and unnecessarily through these tax leaks, through how they invest, or money just going out the door to things they don't understand. So when it's time to pay for college, they scramble. They're pulling savings and retire from savings, retirement, taking on debt. The system's already leaking. Smart money families, they fix these leaks first. They control the flow. They redirect money that's being lost and use it to fund college without wrecking the rest of their plan. This is how you create efficiency without earning more or spending less. Just start by being smarter with what you already have. And now that we've seen kind of how money leaks out, let's look at where it's going. This chart is common wealth transfers. Places people lose money without realizing it. Mortgages, insurance, too much interest, taxes on income, property, Social Security, protection, overpriced, inefficient policies, obviously college planning, more debt, more stress, and any major purchase that you make. Cars, credit cards, poor financing. See, smart money families, they don't just accept this as normal. They identify them, they reduce and eliminate them. They keep those dollars working for college, retirement, lifestyle, because every dollar you stop losing is a dollar you don't have to go work for to replace. That's what efficiency means. I saw a hand go up. If you have a question, please put that in the Q&A. Be happy to answer that. Now, secret number 3, right now, you don't actually pay for anything. Well, you're probably scratching your head like, what do you mean? But your paycheck covers your life right now. One day that paycheck's going to stop, but every expense like groceries, medical bills, even helping your kids, that comes from income paid to you through your business or through, the employer they work for. But someday it's going to have to come from what you've saved. So if you don't plug those leaks now, you're setting up a future cash crisis. And smart money families, they don't wait. They build systems today to protect tomorrow, so they're never forced to choose between the child's dreams and their own retirement. Because here's something smart money families think about, but most families don't. It's critical. You finance everything you buy. Doesn't matter. You're either going to borrow and pay interest to a lender, or you're going to pay cash and you're going to lose interest you could have earned by keeping those dollars working. That means every financial decision has a cost, whether you see it or not. And here's the bigger problem. Where's that money coming from? And that brings us to the largest financial asset, your lifetime income. Showing it over here. It's in this tank. That represents all the dollars you can earn over your life, and it is worth millions. But you don't get it all at once. You get it in drips. Drip, drip, drip. Paycheck to paycheck, month to month, year to year. Right now it covers mortgage, lifestyle. It's covering savings. If you can try to put some money in after, for retirement or after, insurance, taxes, and of course, now college. And while it might feel manageable today, here's the risk. If you're not tracking those dollars through taxes, interest, inefficient spending, you're losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily. And that's not hundreds. That's not even thousands. It could be millions of dollars quietly slipping away. So here's the bigger truth. As I said, you finance everything you buy. Okay? So whether it's a car, a college payment, or a cup of coffee, every financial decision you made or make is going to have a cost, even if you don't see it. And the question is, where's that money coming from? And what's it costing from your future with your decision? Because if we fast forward, here's the moment most families never plan for or don't plan well enough. The paycheck stops. Maybe you're retired. Maybe you sold your business. Maybe life threw you a curveball. Suddenly you're not earning anymore. And now is when you have to pay for things. Every dollar has to come from what you've already saved. That tank you were filling, that's it. It's now going to start being drained. It has to fund the mortgage, the housing. It has to pay taxes, healthcare, college if you're still helping, and those daily living expenses. And here's the kicker. If you've lost money unknowingly and unnecessarily through taxes, interest, poor planning, opportunity cost, then when that moment comes, boom, you may not have enough left to sustain the life you've worked so hard to build. How many of you want your lifestyle to go down? People like their lifestyle to stay the same or go up. Smart money families don't just plan to get their kids into college, they plan to get through college without draining their tanks, without reducing their lifestyle. They want to make sure that's going to be protected. So how do they stay on track and avoid costly mistakes that drain savings, derail retirement, delay college dreams? Fact is, they don't wing it. They follow a plan, one built on clarity, not chaos. Think of your financial life like a cross-country trip. You wouldn't leave without knowing where you're going, how long it take, whether you have enough fuel to get there. College planning is exactly the same. That's why smart money families rely on a financial GPS, a guide that keeps them headed in the right direction, no matter what the detours or delays come up. But here's the thing. Before you hand over another dollar to a college, you need to answer 4 critical questions. And most families, they've never been asked them. But once they are, it changes everything. First question. You've already saved money for college, for retirement, for other things, maybe for a down payment. Do you know the rate of return you need on your savings and investments to maintain that money to be able to provide current lifestyle and retirement or pay for college, adjusted for inflation, and make sure the money lasts through the time you need it, whether that's life expectancy or the time your kids are in college? This analogy is your speed. The faster you go, the more risk you take on. I was just watching, clips on when they were making Kill Bill, and Uma Thurman was told to drive that car. And if you've never seen the story, she got seriously injured because Quentin wanted her to go faster and faster in this car that they had constructed. It used to be 5-speed. They turned it to automatic. She spun out on a dirt road and crashed and hurt her neck. She's had lifelong injuries. The faster you go, the more risk you take on. The faster you drive, the easier it is to spin out. This is one of the things you actually don't control. Smart money families focus less on chasing risky returns and more on plugging leaks and improving what they can control. Second is, do you know how much you need to be saving each month or each year to have enough to pay for college or to retire at the lifestyle you want, stay there? This is like the fuel cost of your trip. Here's the issue. For most families, it's the hardest thing to change. Look at your own situation. Lifestyle may already feel tight. And that's exactly why finding and fixing these wealth leaks I'm talking about matter. Because when you stop losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily, you create this margin to save more that you didn't think you had. And when you find that money, you get to have some choices. You can save it, or maybe you increase your lifestyle and spend it. Either way, you're going to feel better about everything. The third question is, do you know how long you're going to need to work or need to save before you can retire and live like you do today without running out of money? Now, this one I would use for college, except the problem with retirement is you can move that sometimes. College is kind of tough. 18, boom, it comes, hits like a brick wall. So this one, you don't have as much ability to adjust, but you do with the retirement and your other wealth. This is your estimated time of arrival. If you don't adjust your strategy, you might reach the destination, but maybe not on time. What if you had to tell your child, we just aren't there? Can you just stay in high school for 3 more years? I'm not quite there yet. It's not that easy. So smart money families use data, not guesswork, to determine this. They make adjustments early and while they still have time and options. And the fourth question, if you don't change anything, do you know how much you're going to have to cut back standard of living and retirement? Or how much you're going to have to tell your child, sorry, we just can't afford that college? Or take on loans that you're going to be paying for decades to avoid running out? This is your reroute button. It's the detour nobody wants to take. And for too many families, that's the reality they face after it's too late to fix. It doesn't have to be that way. Smart money families build the plan now while they have options, while the paycheck's flowing, because small changes have an effect. And so if you don't know the answer to those 4 questions yet, don't worry. You're not behind. You're just like most families we meet. And unfortunately, most don't know it. Smart money families, they do know. It's not because they're wealthier. It's not because they're financial experts, because they have something most don't. It's a financial GPS. Helps calculate, adjust, course correct as life changes without sacrificing one or the other. You get clarity, confidence, protect from making costly mistakes. That's what we help families build. Because the truth is, if you don't know where you are or how far off track you are, how do you know what you need to be doing now and how much you might have to regret later? Smart money families don't guess, they calculate. This is where they start. Raise your hand if you want to see what yours looks like so you can make those critical financial decisions and know how to make sure you give your child the best of what they want. Because as I said, for me, it's personal. You heard my story, my family, my sister, my journey. It's not just theory for me, it is real. And I'm not alone. I've seen it over the years. I mean, just this past year, 4 families we work with lost a parent right before just as college started. Matter of fact, I take that back. No, 4 or 5. We actually heard about another one. They're not working with us, but another family situation, just heard about it just this month. Things, life's unexpected. And some were okay because they had a plan. Others, they're still trying to find their footing. It's not just about the dollars, it's about peace of mind, protecting your child's future, making sure your family didn't have to suffer financially, emotionally, because life took an unexpected turn. The certainty of uncertainty is real. Planning for it, that's how you protect. So after everything we've covered, you're probably thinking, okay, so what do we actually do with all this? And the answer is focus. Most families are overwhelmed because no one's showing them the full picture or where to focus energy. So let me simplify it. Out of everything we've talked to you about tonight, there's really only 2 areas you're spending 100% of your energy if you want to avoid mistakes, save money, or protect your future. And now that we've covered today, we actually, with everything we talked about, it gets a lot. We actually put together this slide to put it all together. It's the key, we feel, to understanding how the system works, how families unknowingly lose money they never had to. So I'm going to break this down step by step and walk you through everything we did about how these colleges view things and where you should focus. This box right here is $35,000. It's the retail price. It's sticker that colleges list. It's very common. It's realistic, but it's rarely what families actually pay. And this zero, well, that's what you'd love to pay, or at least as little as possible instead of hitting your goals. And this SAI number, again, this is what they think you can afford before the colleges are going to help even offer you any kind of help at all. Now, that area we talked about, that's the gap. Okay, that's going to be the difference between what they charge and your SAI. Most families wrongly assume, look, college, everything's going to be covered, but only a handful of elite schools are going to meet 100% of need. Matter of fact, there's probably less than 10 in the country who are truly going to step up and help you out. There are some schools out there that are designed for lower income families that will help anybody in need. The reality is that most of these elite schools, you have to be the top 1% to even get accepted. Then it's like, hey, we got enough people who pay full price. Sure, we'll help you out. But you can't rely on that. Okay. So the student, the reality is this is the remaining out-of-pocket cost that the colleges won't pay. Families are going to have to cover it. And that often falls on you. But the reality is that's actually going to be probably the minimum you have to pay. And that becomes where families get that unmet need, that surprise getcha. Again, only top tier applicants are going to get enough aid to offset this. For most families, it's just an out-of-pocket expense. And see, that's where most of college advisors stop. We don't. We found most families are focusing on the wrong things. Most of college planners are focused on the wrong things. They spend all this time on the left side. These red boxes I'm going to show you that are the non-controllable variables. Sounds good. They're going to fix all these things, but you have very little control, if any. Okay? That's first is your student admitted rank. The schools have this behind a wall. They don't tell you. How are they competing you against other kids that they're getting? Okay? They're not going to tell you that. You have some control here, but the control that your student has starts freshman year. They got to start it so early that by the time you're a junior and applying, it's almost too late and there's very little you can do. The competition you're up against, you can't see who they're admitting, who they're looking at. You don't have control over that competition. You also don't have control over the money the school has available. and you don't have control over the scholarships that they choose to offer. The problem is families and most college advisors, they'll spend 80% of the time over here talking about, hey, what if we could do? Just get the cost down, get the cost down. But that's wasted. Selling families on chasing things they can't control. You can't see who you're up against. This other side, this is where you can control, some if not more, and where we spend the majority of our time focused. First is school selection. Again, narrowing down where your student's going to be in the top 25 percentile and who's going to be the most generous of those schools. File your FAFSA properly, early, accurately. Then get into planning that cash flow. Don't wreck your long-term finances. You want to make sure that you're planning proper saving strategies, potentially college savings plans, 529s, or even using loans the right way, but with strategy. And the biggest one, as I mentioned, finding lost dollars. The truth is, college is a major financial decision, not just an academic one, and every dollar you lose has a hidden cost. That's called opportunity cost, and that's the real money. So what's the takeaway? Well, only about 20% of your time should be on school selection, forms, because, yeah, finding the right school is important, but it's not the whole story, and there's a lot of variables, and only so much you'll get in discounts, even if you deep dive on that school list. Which means 80% of your focus and 80% of where we spend our time is managing those wealth lakes, optimizing finances, protecting your future. Those are the two levers. That's where smart money families are going to spend almost 100% of their attention. College counselors, advisors, CPAs, they almost all miss this. They give well-meaning advice, but they focus too much time on what they can't control instead of what you can control, which is actually how to pay for college without compromising everything else. We spend most of our time on this. So if you take nothing else from this presentation, remember this. You don't win the college game just by chasing scholarships or guessing how to pay. You win it by controlling what you can and recovering what you're unknowingly losing. So it is time to take action. What do you do now? Well, I'm going to walk you through the 4 things you need to do to start. Okay. First is get your student aid index. This is like your financial credit score. It's going to tell the colleges what you can afford before they can help, and you need to get it in advance. So the majority of this is based on income the past 2 years. Would you ever apply for a loan without knowing your credit score? Absolutely not. You shouldn't go into college planning without knowing this number either. And it is something we can help you put together. You also need to answer those 4 most important questions. They'll determine if your financial plan is actually going to work or if you're walking into a shortfall with landmines without realizing it. I recommend you get the financial GPS. This shows where money's leaking, how to fix it, what steps to take. Listen, you may have more money to save than you know. Wouldn't you want to find that money if you could turn around and use it and not have your lifestyle impacted at all? And lastly, avoid the 10 critical mistakes. You've seen them, and now you know they aren't just little errors. They can cost you thousands, millions. And this is exactly how we help smart money families do this every day. Not just plan better, protect everything they work for. Because smart money families, they know how the system works and how to work this system. Okay? They make decisions through the lens of the financial GPS. Every choice is part of a coordinated plan, not a guess. They combine strategic, big picture planning with tactical action, the right steps at the right time. It's not just about saving, it's about protecting lifestyle, retirement, peace of mind. So if you're still guessing or hoping that things work out, that's okay. But just know smart money families don't guess, they calculate. Makes all the difference. And at the end of the day, you have a choice. You can do what most families do, wait, guess, and hope it all works out. Or you can do what smart money families do. They don't have more money, they don't have more time, just have a better plan. And it starts right here with the free Smart Start session. You get calculate your college credit score with a personalized student aid index report. You get to book a time, 101, answer the 4 most important questions, and begin designing your financial GPS. And as a bonus, you'll get our exclusive 100 questions to ask on a campus tour. Listen, if you've never walked on a campus before, a tour before, a lot of people don't know what to ask. You would never want to walk on a college blind. And if you have these questions, you'll already be on your way to being a smart college shopper. You can just scan the QR code for your report. That's the top one. The middle one to grab your spot. And do yourself a favor. Take a screenshot now, right now, because you don't want to forget it. That way you'll have our email saved if you need to reach us later too. We've helped hundreds of families walk this road with confidence. Now it's your move. Make it a smart one, because here's the truth. Most families wait too long. You can go out on any of those free sites online and you can see the horror stories of families just desperate. Waiting will cost you. Deadlines close, options disappear, financial aid vanishes, wealth slips through cracks, and doing nothing? It's still a choice, but it's often the most expensive choice of them all. So here's your next step. Click the link, grab your spot, lock in your plan while the bonus is still available. And so I thank you very much for spending this time with us tonight. And I'd love to open it up. What questions can I answer for you? All right. We've got a shy group tonight. So usually it takes a minute or two before I start to see the questions. It looks like the Q&A, it's decided to stop working again. So if you have a question, feel free to throw that in the chat. Zoom has a tendency to have this problem creep up time and time again. So if you've been trying to leave a question, I apologize. Okay. So I can see that someone made one. I cannot view it. So whatever question you just put, do you mind putting it in the chat? Technology issue, and unfortunately, Zoom seems to have this one repeatedly. So I'll wait for you to take that question, put it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer it for you, but I can't see it until you put it there. And let me see. I'm going to do a test to see if this is getting out. No, it looks like it has crashed everything, folks. I apologize. Zoom, technology, can't live with it, can't live without it. So here's what I'm going to ask, and I apologize. I'd love to answer your questions. We will reach out to you on that. So if you could do me a favor, could you send your question to info@mergentcollegeadvisors.com? That is on the bottom left. Send your question there. We will make sure to answer that question or reach out to you ASAP. But I apologize for the limitations that we're running into tonight with Zoom. I was hoping that wouldn't happen at the beginning, but it does from time to time. So I want to leave this slide up here. As I said, feel free to get a screenshot. I've actually just looked and I've seen that a couple people have already booked some times with us. We have limited times because we are very busy with a lot of meetings that we already have. We do these webinars regularly. So if you are looking to get a time with us and not have to wait weeks to months, I would recommend that you scan that QR code as quickly as possible. And I see that a couple of you have already done so. So thank you very much for your question. Please send that to that email. I look forward to answering it for you. I'm sorry I couldn't answer it live here, but I do want to thank everybody who's joined us tonight for the time. You've clearly indicated by being here that wherever you are in this process, this is an extremely important topic to you. And if it means that much to you, as you saw in my story, it means a lot to me. And if we talk, I'd love to hear your story and what's important to you, what's going on with your family, who your kids are, what your goals are, what your dreams are, what you see as an extraordinary future. So wherever you are and wherever you may be, appreciate you joining us tonight. Look forward to talking to you. Have a great evening.